5 Superintendent's Reports 2016-2017 District and Campus Improvement Plans.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, trustees. Per Education Code, our district and campus improvement plans, once complete, must be made available for public viewing. We have done so in the office of the superintendent, as well as the assistant superintendent for curriculum and instructions office, and finally the director of grants and federal programs. It is also available for public viewing on our website, and as well as each individual campus website. Before we move on, though, I would like for our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Taffy Hirsch, just to provide a really brief overview of what the contents of that document includes.
Good evening, Mr. Bryant, Mr. Toscano, and members of the board. You'll notice that we have a little bit different of a timeline this year. The last time we came to you with improvement plans, I believe, was in December, so we adjusted our timeline a little bit this year in order to be more aligned with the budgeting process, because it only makes sense to make your plans while you're also making your budget, so you can have all of that aligned. So the timeline's a little bit different this year. Also, if you'll recall, we did our district performance objectives. We had those approved in May, and we had the campus performance objectives approved in June. And at that time, we didn't have all of the information in yet as far as STAR scores and some other things like that. So we have updated the current status in the plan, so all of the percentages and everything are in there, so it's a little more complete. It's still the same performance objectives that you approved, but we do have some additional information in there as far as what our current status is and what we're hoping to accomplish this year. So there's a few changes in that. Part of the improvement planning process is we complete a comprehensive needs assessment. It includes looking at test scores, looking at survey results, attendance, dropout information, graduation information, all of that sort of thing. All that is taken into account whenever we come up with our performance objectives. Also, it's in alignment with the district goal. And then if you do get a chance to take a look at the improvement plans, you'll notice that each campus, their goals have the same categories that the district plan has. So we have our academic performance objectives, our climate and culture performance objectives, and our financial ones. So they're all pretty much the same format. They all have their the needs assessment, then the plan based on all of those categories, and then some other legal requirements that we have to have in there regarding some of the budgeting stuff. As you look at them, you would notice that there are several commonalities amongst all the plans. There is very much a focus on instruction throughout all the plans, and in particular, as you know, we restructured a little bit, and we have our instructional specialists now within each subject area. The plans all address how they're going to utilize that staff, which is very exciting. Also, another thing that's common across them is discussion of learning walks, which that is one of our methods for visiting classrooms, looking at trends across the campus to identify needs. College and career readiness is a big area that you see in all the plans. It's addressed in different ways depending on the campus. If it's an avid campus, there's going to be things about that in there. But there'll also be other things like career days, college days, fairs, speakers, all of that sort of thing. At the high school level, there's some performance objectives regarding test scores and things like that related to college and career readiness. So that's a big theme across all the plans. Another thing discussed across the board is response to intervention, or how are we helping our students that are struggling. Our plans as far as tiered instruction and what types of strategies we're going to use to help those kids. Behavior is a theme across all the plans. As you know, we've done a lot in the last 3 years working on our how we do address behavior in our district, and that's common across all the plans, as well as parent involvement activities. So if you did take the time to read through, and you can see over there in Ms. Zotz's desk, it's quite a thick document. But those are the big themes you would see across all of the plans. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Hertz?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the results. All right, update 106.
Trustees, Update 106 is available for review, first reading this month in your packet. I'm going to make an attempt to give you a little background information on Update 106. It's going to include language recommending policy associated with cameras, video cameras in the special education classroom.
Okay.
We know that that legislation was passed quite a while back during the session, but implementation was expected to begin at the beginning of the year. But just to give you a little background, the commissioner interpreted that legislation after reviewing what he thought was the Attorney General's clarification, set out some guidelines that clarified a couple of things. For example, who could make a request for cameras. And it clarified parent, clarified student, and it indicated at the time that it would be the parent or a staff member of a child who is in that classroom. Another example would be if there was a request for cameras to be placed in a classroom at Legacy in a redirection setting, that meant that only in the classroom where the student is in more than 50% of the time. So the initial interpretation was that that was the case. The Attorney General in the last 48 hours has sent out something that opposed that and said that that was a loose interpretation of the actual language and that TEA and the commissioner did not have the latitude to vary from the language, that the words that were chosen for a reason, and therefore it looks like there's going to be an amendment to that that suggests that it could be cameras could be requested from any staff member on any school within the school, whether they're in the classroom or not. And that the cameras would then need to be in every classroom. So for example, if there was a camera request for again, the redirection classroom at Legacy, then we would then need to put cameras in classrooms that are like that classroom in every school that has it. And that though that wasn't the intent of the legislation, so the commissioner originally used the intent of the legislation, not the actual language. Attorney General saying you got to go by the language. Who cares about the intent? Because you don't have the latitude to do that. And so as you can imagine, it's an unfunded mandate. To outfit one classroom we project is in the neighborhood of $25,000. And if we were to have to outfit one classroom, which now, even though there's no request in other like classrooms and we have to outfit 6 or 8 instead of the one, that $25,000 would be multiplied times 6 or 8. You can't use state or federal funds for that. You have to use local dollars, and it's not a funded mandate. So the intent is all about safety, and the spirit of it's really good. But we're not able to interpret an implementation based on the intent or the spirit of the legislation. We have to go by the literal translation of the actual words that were used. So with us tonight is our special education directors, one of which is new to our organization, Nina Pugh, and I'm not going to ask her to give a speech or anything, but I will say that if I erred in any way, or you would like to add anything to that for the trustees as they review this policy, feel free to do that at this time. I may have missed some points. I appreciate it. We'll keep you around. So it's also actually a way to introduce Nina to you guys. I failed to do that last month, but Nina's our new special education director going forward, and we're really excited to have her. She's hit the ground running, and she's making an impact already. People actually received her well. We're very pleased with that.
I'm really excited to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. So if it's all right with you guys, I took the liberty of making this policy, like all of our updates, 2 readings. One this month, and then next month we'll consider approval. The recommendation from the commissioner prior to this new interpretation was that we expedite it and do it all, read it and approve it in one night, because it was supposed to be implemented at the beginning of school. But in light of what happened the last 48 hours, I've chosen to let you guys read it one month, let us all review it over the next month, see if anything comes out in the wash that changes anything, and then we'll make those appropriate adjustments in the policy that we'll bring to you guys next month, if that's okay. Yes, sir.
Who can view these videos, in the cameras if they're in their room? Who, can view?
Yes, sir. So it's spelled out in the policy for you to review. Yes, sir. But the requirement is incumbent upon us to go ahead and spell that out in our policy. So for us, it would be the superintendent, it would be our HR director, and then law enforcement. It could be Child Protective Services or any of those agencies that may be involved, but otherwise it's protected due to FERPA requirements.
A parent could not ask to do that.
Help me out here.
Can I hear you? So if a pa- okay, so if a parent had an attorney and asked to do that, we'd have to turn it over.
Yeah, so we'll try to talk through it without getting too much in the weeds, but I think we would have to, if there was an incident,
Right.
there would have to be a claim that there was an incident, okay? And we would have to investigate that view, and if indeed there was, then at that point, we may be required to let the parent view. But if there was not an incident, we're not required to let the parent view. Is that correct? Okay.
Thank you.
Whew. That was a good try. You almost got me.
I'm just gonna save mine for next time. Aren't y'all bad? I do have a couple.
Okay. So if you have any questions as you review this policy this month, fortunately, it's just that policy. So unlike the last update that was several pages, it's just a few. So take a look at it, send questions my way. We'll definitely get responses to you guys.
Okay. Upcoming events.
Sir, Mr. President, trustees, if you could take a quick look at your September and October calendar, I'd like to call your attention to a couple of items. First of which, Saturday the 17th. The school board or the school foundation has their annual meeting here in the boardroom from 10 to 11. You're all invited to attend if you would like. They generally give an update of last year's collections and activities, and as well as staff normally presents some of the goals that we may have that they may consider supporting this upcoming year. In addition to that, the high school is hosting their first of 4 major Constitution cafes. This one will be in the cafeteria Saturday from 3 to 5. We've got several other school districts bringing students and staff, as well as many folks around the city, adults, city officials. I think Ron Nirenberg, city councilman, is going to be there as well. The topic is guns, and what do we feel our country should consider regarding them. So it's not a topic of gun control or not, it's just guns, and looking back into the Constitution. So if you're available, they'd love to have you. I know a couple of you have indicated that you would be there. If you've not indicated that, let me know, because they want to make sure that they recognize you and that they have a seat for you. As you know, everybody's strategically placed with students and others. So
One word of caution, they make you participate.
they make you participate. Yes, sir, that is correct. Monday is a student holiday. It is a full-day staff development. I know your calendars are marked, and Ms. Zotz gave you all a manila envelope that included itineraries, maps, agendas for this year's TASB convention in Houston, which begins on the 22nd and runs through Sunday the 25th. If you have any questions about any of the items in that manila folder, don't hesitate to call Ms. Zotz. I want to commend you. She did a great job of being really thorough. Unlike, I know you normally rely on me, and it's kind of hit and miss to coordinate the details, and I do it on the run, but she did a good job covering for me, and I think we're all going to be on the same page.
I agree with you on
Appreciate, which part?
that. She did an excellent job.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was a part about I was hit and miss, but, okay, thank you, sir. Wednesday, the 28th, is a 3-hour early release for students. Moving on into October, our next regularly scheduled meeting is on the 20th. Columbus Day holiday for students is on the 10th. It is a full-day staff development for staff. And then really important activity begins with early voting, which begins on the 24th, runs through the 31st of October in preparation for the November election. It would be at in the high school cafeteria.
Oh, on that little tiny thing. Sorry. Sorry, Ms. Ives, it's amazing job. My eyes are bad. Is this, when this happens, besides this date, will we have it on here? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we'll put them on the calendar for you. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Item D, personnel report.
Trustees, this month's report has very little activity. It's on page 31. We had one teacher resignation before the year began. Actually never did work a day for us. If you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer those for you as usual.
Any questions on that, please direct them to the superintendent. All right, moving on to our action agenda. Item 6A, approval of delegates to the TASB Convention 2016. At this point, I'd like to see if anyone would like to volunteer to be our delegate to the TASB Convention. Mr. Garza has volunteered to be our delegate. Does anyone else want to participate? I know that Mr. Massengale is going to be extremely busy at this year's convention, so we'll let him slide this year on that particular activity. So with that, Chair will entertain a motion to nominate Mr. Garza as our delegate to the convention. We have a motion by Mr. Mulkey. Is there a second? Have a second by Mr. Massengale. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Garza. We'll expect a full report, sir.
What did you sign up for that's got 1,000 trillion hours?
All right, item B, cancellation of November the 8th, 2060 trustee election, single-member District 3 and 4. Mr. Toscano, please.
Yes, sir. Trustees, during the period allowed by law for interested individuals to complete the application for candidacy, only one candidate applied for a position on the ballot in single-member districts 3 and 4. In single-member District 3, we had candidate John Massengale, who happens to be the incumbent, apply. No other contested that district seat. And in District 4, Victor Garza applied, who is also the incumbent. Therefore, because they are unopposed as permitted by Texas Election Code, you as the Board of Trustees may cancel the election due to the fact that they are unopposed. Therefore,
Anyone have any questions about that? All right,
Okay.
please, sir.
yes, sir. Therefore, I recommend board approval of the attached order of cancellation that would cancel the November 8th, 2016 trustee election for single-member districts 3 and 4.
We have a recommendation by the superintendent to cancel the trustee elections for Districts 3 and 4. Chair will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Mr. Massengale. Is there a second? We have a second by Mr. Garza. Any questions? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. So while we won't have trustee elections for single-member District 3 and 4, we do have a trustee election this year on the November ballot. And in addition to that, we have the national and statewide elections. So be a voter, be an educated voter. All right, moving on to item C, construction project delivery contract award method, East Central ISD Central Office roof replacement.
Yes, sir. Trustees, the roof on the business and operations side of district office is in need of replacement, and per our roof replacement schedule, it's time. Per board policy CV local, because of the fact that the project is likely to exceed $50,000, we must seek your approval to determine, or to approve rather, the project delivery and contract award method. Staff is recommending utilizing competitive sealed proposals and securing a contract for this roof replacement project.
All right, we have a recommendation from the superintendent to seek competitive bids for roof replacement. Chair will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Mr. Garza. Is there a second? We have a second by Ms. Brazil. Any questions? Comments? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item D, construction project delivery, contract award method, demolition and land clearing of St. Hedwig property and removal of house on Old Corpus Christi Road.
Trustees, this would be for the property in St. Hedwig on which we intend on building the new school. So we're at the point where we're ready to clear that property. There is an old trailer home, which was an existing homestead, that is on a portion of that property that we would need to demolish during the scope of work. In addition to that, we feel like packaging with that some removal of an old, I would say condemned, I don't know that it's officially condemned, but it's been unoccupied since we've owned the property on Old Corpus Christi Road. We have had calls from citizens that were concerned in the last couple of years that there may be some maybe illegal activity going on in the home that is not suitable to live in. And so we also want, at the same time, to go ahead and have that removed. Staff is recommending, again, competitive sealed proposals in securing a contract for that work.
Thank you. We have a recommendation from the superintendent to accept sealed competitive bids for demolition and clearing of property. Chair will entertain a motion. I have a motion by Mr. Garza. Is there a second? I have a second by Mr. Mulkey. Any questions, comments?
I have one question. How many houses are on that?
Which property?
On the property that we...
St. Hedwig?
Yeah,
So
right.
St. Hedwig has an old trailer home
Okay.
that doesn't have any siding on it, that sort of thing. And in fact, we've had, there's two, I'm sorry.
There's a
Two-
wooden structure
A
there.
wooden structure as well?
Okay.
Okay. Go-
And just the demolition of those homes and of that house? And
Clearing
And clearing the property.
of the property.
And clearing the property, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. So realistically, I think, James, this is going to be our first construction evidence out in St. Hedwig. So it kind of begins the introduction to that community of a new school. So,
Yes,
and
sir.
there are some nice trees on that property. There's also a significant number of what we might term trash trees. So it's just got to be cleaned out.
And to clarify, Mr. Mulkey, because the policy requires the board to approve the award and delivery method, if it were to exceed 50,000, we don't know that it would exceed 50,000, but by securing your approval tonight, we can move forward with the competitive sealed process. And even if the bid comes in much less than that, we can proceed with the work. If we didn't do that and it came in over 50, then we'd have to double back to the board, and it would just delay the process. So we're just covering ourselves in case it is more than $50,000. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? All right, we have a recommendation on the superintendent's motion to accept sealed bids for demolition and land clearing. We have a motion by Mr. Garza. We have a second by Mr. Massengale. Any questions? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item E, resolution regarding extracurricular status of 4-H organization.
Yes, sir. Mr. President and trustees, this is something that we bring to you every year, and it has to do with 4-H activities. It is okay for you guys to approve 4-H as an extracurricular activity. If you were to do that, And in addition to that, consider 4-H staff to be adjunct faculty for the district. Then our students who participate in these activities could get excused absences for that, and the district could collect ADA. So it would be a school-related activity. It's something that you've approved in the past. It's something that the FFA and 4-H are recommending that you consider going forward. A question that I thought you might ask, you may not, but as per policy for these activities, students can miss up to 10 days for district level of activities that would count as school-related, okay? If they advanced, they could get 5 more days. And if they advance to the state level, they can get an additional 2 days.
Well, that was a question I had too about those. They don't fall under the UIL rules, this H Club? UIL rules for us missing school? This program, extracurricular activities. They don't fall under UIL.
It is not, the governing body is not UIL.
That's what I meant.
No, sir.
So they don't follow those guidelines. So, the language in there, you know, you can miss up to 10 days, but it's not capped at 10. So, you know, I mean, you're kind of leaving the door open for that kid to, if the stock show is 3 weeks, he can miss 15 days in a row, am I right? Is this what you're saying?
Could. What I talked about with the 10, the 5, and the 2 is our policy. And we do have a procedure in place where they have to be reviewed. It has to be verified that they are actually in the activity and that they are eligible. And so we've got a pretty good process that ensures that it's not excessive and that it's appropriate. Yes, sir.
So the other thing about that is that the 4-H also follows no pass, no play. So if students aren't passing, the 4-H doesn't let them participate in those events either. So they're really pretty closely coupled with school activities, and it gives those younger kids a great entrance into RFF.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Spelling is almost as important as commas and semicolons, so I'm right there with you. All right. Do we have any other questions, comments, or observations? If not, then I believe we're ready, Mr. Toscano.
Yes, sir. I recommend board approval that Bear County 4-H be approved as an extracurricular activity for the purposes of youth participation in projects, events, and activities, and that the Bear County Extension Director or his designee who meet all necessary criteria be recognized as adjunct staff members, and that students participating in 4-H extension educational activities be counted in attendance for the foundation school program purposes.
Great. We have a recommendation from the superintendent to adopt the resolution regarding extracurricular status of 4-H organizations. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Moki. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Presses. Any other questions? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, the consent agenda. Does any board member wish to have an item pulled from the consent agenda? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. We have a motion by Mr. Garza. Is there a second? Second. We have a second by Ms. Brazil. The consent agenda is adopted via unanimous consent. Before we adjourn, Mr. Toscano, do you have anything else for us, sir?
I do not.
Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, wait a minute. Do you have something, sir? Yes, sir, you might.
We already adjourned.
Just kidding.
All right, go ahead. I'm just kidding.
I just want to tell everybody that's here, the last 3 years that I've been on this board, I think it's been 3 years, or 2.5, have been a blessing. And I really appreciate being up here and doing what I do and serving with my fellow board members. And it's been a really good blessing to serve y'all and serve this community. I want to thank y'all from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to do this and have this opportunity. So thank y'all very much.
With that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. We are adjourned via unanimous consent. Thank you very much.